Hi, welcome to the Race Advisor. Um, Looking forward to this session. I hope it's not too dark out there for you. Hopefully you can see me. It's getting a bit dark out the window here. Um, anyway, give me a thumbs up if you can see me, if you can hear me, all of that jazz. I'm getting a few final things set up here before we go. This is just really informal, live stream. Let's jump in, let's take a look at a race, and let's see how we get on. So drop a message into the chat. You should see the chat on the right hand side of your screen. I think it's somewhere over this way. It's mirrored. Yeah. So drop a message in there, say hi. And I'm just going to try and bring that chat up for me here as well, so I can see that nice and easily. Don't forget, if you haven't yet subscribed to the Race Advisor channel, please do. All you do is to click the little button below, and then you're never going to miss a video or anything like that on the channel. I'd also like to know how you enjoy today. As I say, it's totally informal. We're just jumping in. We're going to have a look at a race together. Let's see how we get on. If you do enjoy it, please let me know. I'd love to hear. Okay, so pleased to hear all is loud and clear. Kieran, thank you very much indeed. Hopefully it's streaming nice and smoothly as well for you. Let me know if there's any issues with the screen. Can you see me okay? Is that working all right? Now, I'm just still looking for the chat. I'm not sure why I can't see the chat somewhere. Bear with me a second. Hi, Philippe. Great to have you here. Thank you for joining. Okay, I'm not sure why... For some reason, do you know what? Every time the software updates on my machine, I seem to lose one of the functions. So I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to find how to get the chat to show for me up here where it normally shows, so I can see what you're saying at the same time as doing the stream. And I'm sure it's not that hard. It's just a setting, I'm sure, that has moved somewhere I can't find. So if there is some noise in the background, it's half term. Having said that, even if it wasn't half term, my kids would have finished school anyway. So apologies in advance if that happens. There is a high possibility one of my children may actually come running in the middle of this. So again, apologies if that happens. And okay, I can't find where the chat is, so I'm just going to have to come back and have a look at it intermittently. Right, it's been a couple of minutes. I think it's time for us to let's get started and have a look at a race. Let me pull this up here for a second. Okay, found a different way to manage the chat. There we go. Found a different way to manage the chat. Right. Hope you've all got a cup of tea. Now let's get started. Okay. So let's come over here and take a quick look. Hi David, thank you for joining. Okay, we're going to take a race. The 440 is probably a little bit too close. It's only 7 minutes away. So let's look at the 448. Okay, we're going to go for the 448. So I'm going to be using, obviously, the Race Advisor website here, and we're just going to go through this race. Let's open it up. Okay, so here's the 448. Drop in the chat if you've already had a look at this race. It'd be great to know who's had a look at it, who hasn't had a look at it already. So drop in the chat. First thing we're going to take note of, this is a National Hunt flat race, okay? 1 mile, 7 furlongs on softer heavy ground, 10.5k prize money. So pretty low quality race in the great scheme of things, but that's fine. We like that. or I like that. The first thing we're going to notice here is that there are 3 horses based on horse most likely to win with the strongest scores. We've got Coco Masterpiece, Ballygunner Castle, Fishery Lane. Of those, we immediately notice 2 things. First of all, 666 days since it last ran, and odds of 1.9. Short, and a few things there to highlight. Oh, it's just turned into parading. So that's the first thing to notice. I am going to open up another tab here as well. So I've got the horse here, and we can see the horse has not yet raced in the UK and Ireland. And obviously the race is going to be a bit like that due to the nature of the race. So what do we do in races of this sort? Okay. Okay, David's got some bets on it. Kieran's saying nothing from me. Alan's made his choice. So what do we do in races where we don't have much information? Because if we come back to the horse, let's just go through some of these. We've got 2 races. Let's have a look at our 3. Coco Masterpiece, Ballygunner Castle, Fishery Lane. Let's come down to Ballygunner Castle. Nothing, you see. Fishery Lane. Nothing. This is pretty hard to determine. The first thing is market. So when you're looking in these types of races, I strongly recommend you do not bet until very close to the off. Let's come over here, look for the 440, just for argument's sake. You do not bet, sorry, not the 440, the 448, until very, very close to the off. Okay? That's the first thing, because you want to see what the market is doing in these races, because this is going to be our primary indicator. We can go on jockeys and trainers. So we can see here, WP Mullins has got the first 3 horses in, and those are the ones that look most likely to win. We've got our ratings, and again, we can see that these follow the patterns. But again, that's not unsurprising because there's very, very little data to have here. If we scroll down to the insights, here's something that we can use that is useful. We can see, first of all, strongest trainer Mullins, okay? 35% win rate at Thurles, specifically. Strongest jockey, Brickley, 50% win rate at Thurles. And the favourites win in these races 38% of the time. So this is a little bit useful. This one here is the most handy. Favourites win rate, okay? Because we're going to use the market. That's the one that is most useful. We already know that we haven't got much detail about horses, okay? So, again, we're not going to get much information from here. We're going to come over to the predictor here. And we can see here that Coco Masterpiece is the strongest based on the predictor in the win market. Now, again, there's very little data, which means this is going to be quite heavily slanted towards the market. So you can see where I'm getting with this. When there's very little data, everything skews towards the market unless you are going down the route trainers, jockeys, and or breeding. Now, we're not going to do breeding. And personally, I don't really use trainers or jockeys. That's a personal thing. That's not to say it doesn't work. It works for a lot of people, just not for me. So I don't go down that route. So predominantly in these, I'm looking at the market. What I do have here is a value indicator, which tells me that there isn't much value to be had in Coco Masterpiece. However, if we look at Fishery Lane and Ballygunner Castle, we do have some potential value in Fisher Lane, 7.2. And then we've got Ballygunner Castle, Little Eddie, and Ned in the Park on the predictor. They're all pretty much of a muchness, to be honest. If we look at the place market, we see a slightly different picture. Coco Masterpiece straight up there. And then Fishery Lane, Ballygunner Castle. Okay? Pronounced Thurles. Thank you. I've actually never been 100% sure of that. So, Kieran, appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. Thurles. I will try and remember that going forwards. And apologies for my mistake on the pronunciation previously. So, here's what we're going to do. Here's what I would do for this particular race. Honestly, I'd probably skip it. If I was definitely going to have a bet, I would consider Coco Masterpiece, but I would also look at the market. I'd possibly look at the graphs, the market graphs, if you can see them. Is it coming in? Is it going out? So I'd be looking for that information. The next thing I'd do, however, is I would be looking in the top 3 and the top 4 finish positions. So remember, back down here, we've got Ballygunner Castle, Fishery Lane looking potentially good. Okay, and we also had Ned in the win market, Ned in the park. So again, Ned in the park, 1.82, not great. Ballygunner Castle, 1.4, not great. Fishery Lane, however, 2.22. Okay, possibly. I don't know. As I've already said, my preference would be to probably skip this race. So what I would do here is I would look at the market. I'd see how it came in. I'd maybe consider Coco Masterpiece, but probably not. Short odds, very little information. So not really my cup of tea. If I wanted to go for something, I think maybe Fishery Lane. We've got no details on Fishery Lane, not yet raced in the UK, but showing here with 15% win and a 46% there. We know it's also third down here, plus the PR and the VDW. If Fishery Lane was to drift massively, I might change my mind. I might consider a 4-place market as well, but there's not much in there at the moment. So most likely, if I was going to consider a bet in this, I'd probably do a 20-80, 20% win stake, 80% play stake on Fishery Lane, in the expectation Coco Masterpiece is likely to be the winner in this race, but Fishery Lane may have a place chance. So that's probably how I would do that. Generally speaking, skip. So let's go to the next race. Also, I went back to the homepage so we could see the list of races here. Because the next race is the 458, but it's been brought to my attention, a lot of people don't realise you can actually go to the next race by clicking on the course up here and skipping instantly to any race card. So for example, I can go to the 458 at Newcastle for the next race. Pardon me. So we've got a bit of detail here. Starting to get our teeth a bit more stuck into. Apprentice handicap 7 furlongs. Class 6 race on standard ground. I love an all-weather low-class race. So let's take a look at this race. Okay, first thing I'm interested in here. Horse most likely to win. Palace Lord, Possible Ambition. Something I often do as well is I actually eliminate the horses that are odds above 30. So Cammy at the bottom, I'm just going to click. I did that by clicking on the silk. Just a visual indicator that I'm not interested in this horse. Helps me clear my mind. Some races you can do a whole bunch of the field like this. Pardon me. So we got these two at the top, Palace Lord, Possible Ambition. Let's see by PR rating. Oh, I had this issue before when I live stream. It sometimes doesn't let me do it again. Let me just refresh this. Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't let me do that again. Okay. So Palace Lord, Possible Ambition, 3.65, 4.18, and I can see scrolling down here they are also top 2 for PR. I can see that it's not top 2 for VDW, but Palace Lord is top rated, followed by Mary's Jewel. Now, odds would indicate that this has probably got it slightly wrong, but maybe we should be looking at Mary's Jewel as an outsider. Possible chance. Possible Ambition is actually third because after Palace Lord, we got Bernie the Bear with a score of 8 for VDW here. Then Possible Ambition. So, how do we relate that? That goes back into slight, in my mind, that basically gives it a slight negative. So we're just reducing, or increasing, I should say, we're increasing the risk on the horse. I was about to say we're reducing the horse's chance, but actually what we're really doing is increasing the risk on that horse. Okay, and again, this is nothing to do at the moment with whether there's value in the odds or anything like that. We're just currently looking at contenders. Who are the contenders? So we've seen that. Now I'm just going to scroll down here, have a very quick look to see, okay, Mary's Jewel's moving up. That's it so far. Codebreaker we've not looked at. most suited horse. Bernie the Bear, Palace Lord and Possible Ambition are in there, not far behind Bernie the Bear. Bernie the Bear was the third on VDW and the third on PR. So again, in that frame, a bit of a bigger gap for horse most likely to win, but obviously one to consider, particularly with a jockey and a trainer performing better than their average over the last 14 days. And we can see that because of the green highlight in their scores underneath. That indicates they are performing better than they have on average in the last 14 days. We are now going to have a look at each of these horses. So we're going to start with Palace Lord. Okay, first thing, 9-8. Always make a note of the weight. 9-8. Okay. So is Palace Lord improving? It looks pretty static. I know the line is red. That's because we've got a slightly lower score in the end than at the beginning of the last 5 races. But basically, this is pretty level, so consistent performing. Probably averaging around 110 here. Okay, and again, I'm just keeping that in mind, bearing that out. Horse strength is looking pretty solid. Does this horse suit the race? It's essentially a shortcut on the FMFR, but we're going to actually do both. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for the moment, and I'm going to look at the next horse, which was Possible Ambition. So let's come down to Possible Ambition. Okay, Possible Ambition, here we go. First thing we notice, the average is much lower than the last horse we looked at. So we're sitting at probably around 90. If we would draw a line in the middle, it would be somewhere around here. So quite significantly lower. Also, it's been bouncing around a fair amount. We've had one race up here, January the 17th, and we can look at that down here, January the 17th here, where the horse did very well comparatively to the other races. And then dropped off again. So this is a concern for me compared to the previous horse. Carrying 9-11, and again, this shortcut here is fine, but we're going to actually do the FMFR method anyway, so it's not really much of a concern. Bernie the Bear. Okay, so now we're seeing an increase. This is nice, it's an improvement, but the top line is still only at the level that we had with Palace Lord. So it's still only at the top level here. Also, improvement is good. That possibly means we've got a contender, potentially competitive here. But it's going to need to keep at that higher level in order to perform in this race. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and we're going to have a quick look at these 3 horses in a little bit more detail. So where was I? Palace Lord. Let's start with Palace Lord. Remember, carrying 9-8 on standard ground over 7 furlongs in a 10k race. So first of all, we've got 1 mile races. So these are essentially 7 furlongs. So we're going to consider those as well. All of these are on flat or weather. A lot of them are on 6, 7k, but we do have a couple of 10ks in here, and we can see that it won at this 10k. Carrying 9-2, however, so let's just keep going down a little bit. We've got a 9-7 race here, was beaten by 3.25 lengths. That's quite a long way. Track leaders pushed out, weakened. More recently, in these races, we can see beaten 5 lengths, but beaten 1 length, 1.75 lengths, 1.5 lengths, half a length, won by, beaten 1.25 lengths, won by a length. So this horse has been competitive recently over essentially the same distance, over similar prize money, and really not carrying too much weight. We've done this over a 9.6, carrying 9.8 today. Shouldn't see a huge impact there. Notice all of these are wearing a tongue strap. Coming up to here today, sorry, not up here, coming back over here, we can see Palace Lord is wearing a tongue strap today. So that's great. That all tallies up. Looking here, we can see the horse was prominent, led 2 furlongs out, led, chase leader, mid-division, pushed along, headway, led. So this horse likes to be in the front, okay? And we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so far, looking good. We've built up a little bit of a picture, and we're going through this pretty fast, but we've built up a little bit of a picture of this horse. Okay, now let's come back to Possible Ambition, which was the next one. This was the horse that was bouncing around a fair amount. Pardon me. Carrying 9-11. Carrying 9-11, okay. Let's move down here and see what we've got. Again, a quick glance down here tells us that this horse has been racing over similar distances for a while. So fine. Also similar class, possibly a bit of a jump, but 6 and 7s and 8s, going up to 10. But again, not too dissimilar to the last runner that we looked at. Carrying 9-11 today, and actually we've got a 9-10 here. but was beaten 3.7 lengths, so not competitive. We've got a 9.9 beaten 12.75 lengths, 9.8 beaten 9.3 lengths. Scrolling down, the highest weight this horse has been competitive at looks to be 9.6. Okay, about 9.6 recently. So possibly 9.11 is going to be a bit much. Possibly we've got a bit of a weight concern here in this race. And we need to bear that in mind when we're considering the risk. Okay. Apologies. Sorry, my brain just sort of stopped there in the middle. So we've got to consider that as a possibility. So, okay. Let's see what else we can find. First of all, today it's on standard. We can see that up here. We put the race conditions on the individual horse pages exactly for this reason, so we can see it. And we've got a weight concern. Standard ground, not really a concern. We can see there was a win here. Okay. But interestingly, we can see straight away, glancing at the in-running comments, Maydal set a slow pace, pushed in the final furlong. Track leaders, chase leaders, midfield, close up, raced in third, close up, dwelt, mid-division. This horse doesn't want to be at the front. So the question now we can ask ourselves is, this horse is in the middle of the pack, which is the most likely. Is it going to have the speed to catch the leader? Based on these figures here in the improving graph, so averaging 90 compared to Palace Lord, who we already know is like to be a leader, generally consistent, 110, possibly not going to be able to actually catch up. So there's two risk issues there: weight and is the horse going to catch up. Also, a visor was worn here. So in its best races, it was wearing a visor or blinkers. Today, it's got a visor on, so that's good. You can also look, sorry, I should have mentioned this before, you can also look at the Betfair odds history down here as well. And this can often give you a good indication of what the market thinks and whether it gets it right for a particular horse. I would say this market doesn't always get it right for this horse. Back here when it was beaten 1.9 lengths, the horse went off at 13.71 on Betfair. It doesn't always get it right. Okay, so there's a bit of risk associated around this horse. It's currently going off at 3.6 or around 3.6. So there's a few potential concerns there. Now let's look at Bernie the Bear. Bernie the Bear has improved, remember, looking strong, going to need to continue competing. Weight 9.5. Okay. Coming down here, quick glance down tells us this horse was racing an 11k and a 10k recently, and promisingly beaten 1 length, beaten 1.25 lengths. That's a great sign. Sorry, I forgot. It was carrying 9.5, okay? Carrying 9.5, okay, so 8.12, 8.13. So it's carrying a fair amount more weight today. However, if we come down to here, we can see it's carried a lot more than this weight and won, but it was a furlong difference. And this is something we've got to keep an eye on. 6 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 6 furlongs. So there's an extra furlong here. And it was only winning by a length, but still possible contender. Goes in its favour. Coming down to 7 furlongs here, was beaten by 4 lengths, carrying 9.1. But that was going back to October last year, so quite a way back, to be fair. Let's continue moving down a little bit here. Okay, so then we go down to the stands. We've got a 10k here at 7 furlong where it won. Just won, carrying 9.3. So this is going to be the most similar from recent races last August. We can see prominent pushed along, pressed leader. Edge left start prominent, held by winner. Okay, so this horse, chase leader, led early, track leaders. So maybe it's going to chase the leader, but looks like it's possibly going to be, maybe it's going to lead, but looks like it's going to be more comfortable sitting behind, just behind the lead, but very close up there at the front. And that's likely to be the position for the horse. The question then is going to be, is it going to have enough carrying 9.5 to push through and beat, essentially, Palace Lord? The answer is it may well be able to do that. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but it may well be able to do that. So that gives us another contender there, which actually gives us essentially the top Palace Lord here, and Bernie the Bear. So from the current list, 3. Okay, Possible Ambition, not so keen on at the moment. Let's have a look at the race predictor. Okay, so now interestingly, in the win market, the race predictors put Bernie the Bear at 20%, so the strongest, followed by Palace Lord. Okay, so that's quite interesting. We can see there's a bit of a gradient coming down here, because after that we've got Martinsbrigg, Possible Ambition, and that Possible Ambition being a bit lower ties into what we've already seen. So that kind of plays out like we've seen. I'm not going to go through the other horses. If you have time, in an ideal world, you would at least check a few more of the horses. We probably want to check Mary's Jewel. Let's have a quick look at that, because we brought that up earlier. So we can see here, okay, so generally a lot lower, higher up here, coming towards 80. Still going to have to improve. Very short history, carrying 9-4 today. So we've had 9-7 in weight, but beaten heavily. Hasn't actually been competitive yet. Possibly one to watch, see how it performs. Okay, Alan's just said in the previous race, the favourite won, and then Fishery second. So not a bad result. So if you have the time, particularly when there are a lot of horses under odds of 30, it's always good to go through the FMFR on them. It gives you a better concept or visibility of the race. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to focus on those 3. Now in the place market, Bernie Bear here again, 51% chance of placing. Palace Lord, Possible Ambition kind of evening out a bit here for placing. So kind of 40-ish% for each of those. So again, this ties into what we already thought. Coming to the market. Coming to the market here, they're now at the post. We can see that there. And we can also see it up here as well. 2 minutes, let's have a quick look. Palace Lord, Bernie the Bear, 3.654.8. Let's look in here. Palace Lord 1.53, Bernie the Bear 1.63, Bernie the Bear 2.44, and 1.35. Let's have a look at. Always have a look at all the markets. Okay, this is interesting. Possible Ambition, Bernie the Bear 2s. How would I bet in this? I'd probably look at a Dutch bet between Palace Lord, Bernie the Bear. I'll probably be looking either at a Dutch bet like that, Palace Lord, Bernie the Bear, possibly 2 2080s in here. This is a little bit low. I mean, if you put, for example, £8 on this, you'd still cover your stake if it won. But the issue is, if you put that on both, as you can see here, you're going to need both to win to cover your stake in the place market. So that's not really an ideal bet. Okay, so we don't really want to do that. So I'd probably be looking at a Dutch bet, most likely. Palace Lord, Bernie the Bear coming in here in the win market. While we're waiting for that race, we'll have a quick look at that race. If you've got any questions, drop them in the chat, please. And while we're looking at that race, I'll just show a very quickly. I will show a little bit of a view over here. This is our classic website. It's only available to RA Pro members. We are slowly migrating tools from here across to our new site, our primary site. But there are a few things in here that aren't yet migrated. One of which is the speed graphs. And if you see me talk before, you know I love a speed graph. So I'm just going to shrink this down. I'm going to put all weather. Shrink it down again. And let's have a quick look. So Palace Lord here, kind of pretty consistent, which is what we thought. Possible Ambition dropping here. So again, we've seen some of these shapes already on the improver graphs that we've got. This is just a more comprehensive display. Bernie the Bear is sitting in here purple underneath. And again, we can see here that very, very, very close between Bernie the Bear, Palace Lord from that speed graph perspective. We could get into the dynamic filters and things, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to come back here and we're going to use a couple of other tools that I like particularly. So for example, we've got the 5278 Contender Finder ranking. So this is Bernie the Bear at the top, which is interesting, and Palace Lord third. Kananga's dropping in there as well. I also like Dayson's last good race. So you see very often Dayson's last ran, useful but very limited. Dayson's last good race, far more useful. Palace Lord had a good race 3 days ago. Bernie the Bear 11 days ago. So again, strong information there as well. I'm not going to go into this in much more detail. This race has now gone. Has it gone in play? Yeah, this race is now in play. So we should be able to see it. It might be that YouTube block this in the replay because I don't own the rights to show you the Betfair market as it happens. So they may do that. I've obviously not got the race up. I'm not watching it. Remember, we thought Bernie the Bear was going to be just behind Palace Lord. Palace Lord wanting to lead, probably Possible Ambition being somewhere in the middle of the field. Okay, Palace Lord won. Apparently, thank you, Alan, for giving us that information. Palace Lord won. What were the places on it? Oh, no, the market's still open, so I'm wondering if something's going on. Mary's Jewel ran a close second, and we said we should watch Mary's Jewel. So here's Mary's Jewel. What I would probably do in this case is I would track this horse, and I would say carrying 9-4. I put the date 2024-02-13. Carrying 9-4. I didn't watch the race, so I'll actually go back and watch it. But ran a good race over 7 furlongs at 10k. Watch suspected improvement pre-race. Watch for more improvement because there may well be value there in the future. So I come back and I'll just add that there, and that note's gone on there. And you can see that that's now been added. If I just come here into my tracker, most of these horses are tests, but you can see here that's now been added into my tracker. And tomorrow, obviously, this horse has only just raced, but previously her last race was on the 8th of January this year. So that's straight into the tracker there, and I'll get alerted next time that horse is running. And I did share this in our Telegram group. If you're not registered yet on the Race Advisor website, go register and you'll get a link to join our Telegram chat. But again, I did point this out. I can't remember what time frame we did, but like as a very simple way. I can't remember. Most of the horses on here have been added randomly. Yet adding randomly still managed to make a positive outcome. I mean, it's tiny and the strike rate's horrendous. Don't get me wrong, but that's really just to show that you don't need to overthink things. You can do things pretty calmly, gently. When you see stuff, add it into your tracker. Okay, so nice and simple like that. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to go back there and answer Alan's questions. I would love to know. I'm going to finish up soon, so if you've got a question, please drop it in. I would love to know if you enjoy doing a kind of a short live stream like this, just a quick 30 minutes. We get on, we have a look at a race together, we go through it, and drop a message either in the chat here, send an email, whatever it may be. I'd love to know if you're in a Telegram group. Let me know if that's something you enjoy, would like to see more of. I've certainly had a good time. It's nice, have a break, check out a race with you. Alan's question, can I clarify the color coding in the predictor graphs? I absolutely can. So the color coding, this is in the value column here. And if I've got that wrong, Alan, let me know. But I'm assuming we're talking about this value piece here. And what this tells us is it tells us how likely there is to be value in the live odds in the market for this horse based on our predictions. So quite simply, you've got, there isn't in here, is there any in the place? Yeah, okay, so we've got red, orange, blue, and green. So those are the 4 possible colors that you can get. Anything under 1 is going to be red or orange. That tells us that there is, for the back market, so not talking about laying here, this is just about backing, In the future, we're actually going to add lay markets into this predictor as well for you. But from the backing perspective, in the win market, this tells us anything less than 1 tells us that there is possibly not much value to be had in this horse, or in the worst case, there's actually a really bad negative edge, i.e. the odds are far too short for the horse, or for the chance that we perceive the horse to have. The odds should be significantly higher. So anything less than 1, the closer to 1, the closer to what we would expect the odds to be. Anything over 1, so less than 1 is going to be color coded either red or orange, depending on how low that number is. Anything over 1 is going to be color coded blue or green. The higher the number, if it's very high, it's going to be green. If it's kind of mid high, that's not a thing. But if it's not extremely high, then it's going to be blue. So again, the colors are just a quick indicator of where value is sitting in the market here. We can see here, value was sitting in the market on Mary's Jewel, Martin's Brig, and Cami in the win market, and in the place market, Cami and possibly Mary's Jewel as well. Okay, so that's kind of where those colors sit. But again, when you see stuff like we've got here, 2.1 is pretty high. We had 7 or 8 in the previous race, I think. Again, that's astronomically high. And my only caveat, I guess, on this is that, remember, we do our best to make accurate predictions, but they are tools to use alongside your analysis. If something is extremely high or extremely low, it doesn't really happen so much on the low side, so it's a bit skewed towards the high. But if you've got a really crazy high advantage on a horse, and you go, this doesn't feel right because the horse hasn't placed, it may be that our algorithm has missed something, either that it doesn't know about, or that it has given too little weight or importance to. So again, of extremes, just be cautious when anything, and that's not just the race advice stuff, any factor rating method. When you see an extreme that looks far outside the regular parameters, just be aware that it may have missed something or given too little or too much weight to something. So that's kind of what that means. And for those of you, just before I finish up now, for those of you who don't know what the FMFR method is, click on your profile icon top right. You can go to resources here and you can download the FMFR method for free. You do need to be logged in, so you do need to have a free account to be able to do that, but it's free to create an account and it's free to download this method. So, so there we go. Thank you very, very much for joining me today. It's been absolutely wonderful. I've had a great time. I really hope you've enjoyed it as well. I hope you got a little bit there on Palace Lord, if you did that Dutch bet, and previously on the Thurles one as well, if you got the favour there in the win market, or if you went for Fishery in the place. So I hope you did got those on and enjoyed a little bit of profit there. It's not always going to happen, but we'll do our best. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful Tuesday evening. Yeah, and don't forget, if you've not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, notification button, make sure you don't miss a video or a live stream when we do them. Thanks very, very much for joining me. Have an absolutely wonderful evening, and I will see you all very soon.